So when Apuss and David Wood aren't busy jerking each other off, they're bringing up the same old retarded argument that the Prophet Muhammad copied off. Uh, the New Testament Apocrypha, or in this case the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. Now, if we read the Oxford Bible Commentary, page 1307, even Christian scholars are admitting that the New Testament apocryphal work contains could contain true stories from the first century about Jesus, but these oral stories about Jesus in the first century weren't written down until, the second century and third century. So just because the Infancy Gospel of Thomas comes from the second century doesn't mean it originated in the second century, as even Christian scholars are admitting that these apocryphal gospels, like the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, could contain true stories about Jesus, and it wasn't written down until the second century, and these stories originated from oral tradition in the first century. So that's the first part. So the second part is even Christian scholars like Don Stewart and Craig L. Blomberg admit that the New Testament Apocrypha has true stories in them. So this is not a threat to the validity of the Quran, mentioning the story of Jesus making clay birds that's found in the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, because Christian scholars are admitting that there are true stories found in these New Testament apocryphal works. The second problem is Apuss and David Wood are committing the genetic fallacy, which is attacking the source of the claim instead of the claim itself. So this whole argument that the Quran copied off the New Testament Apocrypha, or the Apocrypha, is called the genetic fallacy. It's attacking the source of the claim instead of the claim itself. The third issue is that even the Bible quotes from these apocryphal stories, like 2 Peter copies off 1 Enoch, the Book of Jude copies off 1 Enoch, according to Christian scholars. Paul copies off the life of Adam and Eve in 2 Corinthians, etc., etc. So these are apocryphal, these are Old Testament apocryphal works that didn't make it into the canonical Old Testament, but are pseudegraphical or apocryphal books that didn't make it into the canonical Old Testament that we have today. So the New Testament does the same thing. It copies off these, or it quotes these Old Testament apocryphal books. So if it's good enough to disprove the Quran, it's good enough to disprove the Bible. But Apuss and David Wood won't admit that their favorite book does the same thing. So there are true stories, according to Christian scholars, and the New Testament and the Quran could be repeating true stories found in these apocryphal books.